As we've been reporting this morning, there's been another government U-time, this time on the date of the Chancellor's fiscal statement on balancing government finances. And we can talk now to Tom Harwood, our political correspondent, who is just out of what's known as the lobby briefing. This is where the Prime Minister's official spokesperson, don't know if it's a man or a woman, tells journalists like our Tom what the message is. What have you been hearing, Tom?
Well, Gloria, I can confirm it is a man, although sometimes when the official spokesman is on holiday, it does swap around. But yes, no, it's a bloke. But today we have been exploring so many issues. I cannot begin to reel off the length of this list. It really does illustrate just how monumental a task waits before government. Of course, it feels like Parliament has been in some sort of suspended animation for the last few months, really, of course. You'll remember that long leadership contest over the summer, followed by a brief return only to be halted by, of course, the period of national mourning. A couple of days back, a mini-budget, and then conference season. And for the past few weeks, we've been darting around the country following the various parties as they gather, as they talk through what they really need to do in the coming weeks, months, and indeed years. But now it's crunch time. Parliament returns tomorrow, and it has a job on its hands. Everything from energy to the escalating crisis in Ukraine to so many other different issues. And really, I think we can talk through some of those now. Firstly, the Prime Minister has on her hands a G7 call tomorrow, not only with the G7 leaders, Macron, Biden, Trudeau and the rest of them, but also with President Zelensky sitting in for part of this call. Now, this has been revealed by Number 10 in the last hour or so. A very important call, no doubt, for Western coordination as the cries in some quarters grow in terms of how the West might respond to this escalation by Russia. Indeed, the Prime Minister's spokesman was asked in our briefing a little bit earlier whether or not Russia's escalation, Russia's strikes against some civilian targets, we understand now, should mean that perhaps the West would think about stepping back or going for a negotiated solution, because as the Ukrainians advance, it seems that the Russians become more aggressive. Well, Number 10's response was an emphatic no, the idea that the alternative would be so much worse. Indeed, if we were to withdraw our support from Ukraine, so say Number 10, Russia would only get more aggressive, more assertive, and the issues would grow and grow. But of course, related to that, we're also talking about energy. And interestingly, there's a story that has been bubbling along for the past few days about whether or not solar farms will be banned in the United Kingdom. Now, the Prime Minister's spokesman was relatively evasive on this subject, saying that there will be more to come in this series of announcements we're expecting on 8 different areas of supply-side reform in the coming weeks and months. But I asked whether specifically farmers were best placed to decide what goes on their own land, or the government. Who should decide, who should ban, who should step in? And interestingly, the Prime Minister's spokesman said that the Prime Minister thought that farmers were best placed on that particular issue, which may well mean that we might get some solar farms after all. Clearly a bit of a battle there between the Environment Department and indeed the Energy Department. But of course, as with so many of these issues, so much more is to come over the coming days.
Tom Harwood, the farmer's friend in Downing Street. Thanks very much indeed on the lobby briefing and, of course, what may be coming in these days ahead.